So I'm planning to do a prepared speech on next Tuesday during my Toastmaster meeting. But here's the thing. I'm actually not going to do a prepared speech. I'm actually just going to do a table topic. But I'm going to cheat a little bit and try to rehearse it in this video, just to have a little bit of a structure so that I could hit the 5-minute mark without being totally awkward. Okay, the topic I want to talk about today is attachment theory. And honestly, for my personal life, I feel like attachment theory has been a huge unlock. It has allowed me to see the world and relationships in a completely new way and has directly benefited my life. So let's get right into it. And one thing I'm going to do for this video is try to have better camera engagement, because a lot of feedback I've been getting is I'm actually looking here, I'm looking there, I'm looking up and down, and I'm not looking at the camera. So for this video, I'm going to try and look at the camera. Okay, so what is attachment theory? Well, attachment theory is this idea. I believe it's actually conducted by two different scientists, one of them from Canada. It's this idea that humans, when they're a baby, they form an attachment style based off of their first primary caregiver, okay? So the experiment was done in a way where you have kids, toddlers, I think, and you expose them to 3 different primary caregivers. First one is a very loving, supportive caregiver that can fulfill most of the child's need. The next is a caregiver that is sometimes here, but sometimes not. There's no consistency, okay? And then the last type of caregiver is just basically never there. Completely hands off, just not really a caregiver at all. And this was done in kind of like a lab setting where I believe the toddler is put in a room. They play them by themselves, and then they get into distress, and then they try to call for the parent or caregiver, and the caregiver, in this case, would provide some sort of support or lack thereof. And then after that, they studied the effects and determined that there are 4 different types of attachment styles. The first one is secure attachment. Secure attachment is where everyone wants to be at. It's the healthy way to attach. And I think about 50% of the population is securely attached, which is good news for us when we're trying to find a partner, because that means the odds are actually stacked for us. So a secure attachment style looks like this. You're able to go out, explore, do your own things, but when you do need that emotional support, you will get it from your primary caregiver. And then we have anxious attachment. The caregiver is sometimes there, but sometimes not. These type of people are very anxious. They, when they go out and explore, in the back of their mind, they're always thinking, well, I need to check back with my caregiver. Are they going to abandon me? And then we have avoidant attachment. Their caregiver basically never shows up, so they learn how to become very self-sufficient and regulate all their emotional needs themselves. Lastly, we have fearful, avoidant, or disorganized, which is just complete chaos. Sometimes they're avoidant, sometimes they're anxious. This affects about 5% of the population, and honestly, they're kind of fucked. And I fall within disorganized. Yes, unfortunate. I think I'm primarily anxious, less so avoidant. But when I did the test with my therapist, it definitely came back to be anxious avoidant. So how does attachment theory help us in our relationships? Well, it's a good predictor of what kind of people you are going to attract and how you manifest certain behaviors during a relationship. So, for example, if you're an avoidant person, it is hard for you to be vulnerable emotionally and connect. You are very self-sufficient, so when a partner tries to bid for your attention and connection, you're like, hold on, I don't know how to deal with that. Why don't you back the fuck off? I am not emotionally available for this. That's avoidant. Now, anxious. I live this every fucking day of my life, so I can speak in detail about anxious attachment. When you're anxious, every tiny detail becomes a catastrophe. I text them, they haven't texted back in 30 minutes. Oh my God, what does this mean? Are they abandoning me? Did I do something wrong? Are they mad? And it goes into this huge spiral where your brain is coming up with 30 different reasons something that could have gone wrong, okay? And then for somebody that is anxious, avoidant, sometimes they're avoidant, sometimes they're anxious, which makes it so that the partner cannot fucking deal with them at all because, they're just chaos. Okay, so the goal, of course, is for all three types of people to slowly become secure. We call this earned secure attachment. Well, how do we get there? Speaking from personal experience, I actually noticed that I'm not looking at the camera fully, so look at the camera. Speaking from experience, okay, what you need to do is you need to raise your meta-cognition. This is the central point. Now listen closely. Your meta-cognition is the ability for you to step outside of your thoughts and go one level above and observe your own thoughts, okay? It is basically impossible to get better and get earned secure attachment if you do not have this type of metacognition. It is something that you can develop. So, speaking from my own experience, when I'm going through an anxious spiral, oh my God, I texted and they haven't responded, and my thoughts come up with 30 different reasons. At that moment, what I could do is feed into that anxiety, start blowing up their phone, and seek that reassurance. Because ambiguity means abandonment, right? Now, we look down and take these thoughts to a court. Okay, why am I thinking I'm getting abandoned? Is it really going to be like this? It's 30 minutes. Maybe they're just busy, okay? And then slowly, you realize that most of this is just bullshit. It's not based in reality, and it's okay. It's a nothing burger. So that is how you slowly can become a securely attached person. Now, I don't know how to get better as an avoidant person because I'm not that avoidant. I used to be more avoidant, but I think recently I've been able to step outside of that. However, my anxious side is definitely acting up. I am primarily anxiously attached. So, the first level, of course, is to have that metacognition. Take your thoughts to court, challenge them, and then slowly you'll realize that it's a nothing burger. You won't act on these thoughts. But here's the key thing, okay? I want people to understand this key point. If you are a avoidant person, a anxious avoidant, or anxious person, there isn't a day in which you just become secure by default, okay? It just doesn't happen. A learned or earned secure attachment means you still experience your default mode network. So the case for me is anxiety. You still experience anxiety. The anxiety will always come. It is deeply ingrained in you. That's why attachment theory works. It is deeply ingrained in you. But it doesn't mean that you have to feed into it. Now, if we take CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, you have thoughts, which influences your emotions, which influences your behavior. These are all connected like a triangle. So when you are feeling a anxious thought. When you have an anxious thought, okay, so the thought, you feel the anxiety, but it doesn't mean that you have to act in a certain way. The behavior, you can cut it off and be like, okay, I have the anxious thought, I'm feeling anxious, but I'm not going to blow up the phone of my partner. So slowly, you will get better at dealing with the anxiety, but the anxiety will never go away. That's what an earned, secure attachment looks like. So to conclude, attachment theory is really powerful for understanding how humans form attachment and how we interact with people around us. When you study this theory and you analyze your own attachment patterns, and then you develop some framework and tools to have that meta-cognition, to look at your thoughts, take your thoughts to court, you will slowly become more securely attached and have a better and more enjoyable and meaningful relationship in your life. That's about it.